How's it going, guys? It's Harvey from Weather Storm Shop 1000. Today is March 19th, 2020, and we're going to take a look at the current blizzard that's impacting the Midwest. And you see an abundance of snow that extends from Denver all the way to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So we're very well into this in the Midwest, and there's still quite a bit of snow left to go. If we take a closer look, we see that there's moderate to potentially heavy snow bands just around the Colorado area. However, it seems like in Colorado, although it looks like it could end, there's still about 3 to 5 inches of snow left to go because this snow band will linger for a little bit, probably around 2 to 3 hours from now, because this high pressure just to the north of it, this dominant ridge, is going to pull some of that snow a little bit back, even though the low pressure is moving towards the east. So the snow should linger. Don't let your guard down just yet in Denver. If we take a live look at Denver to see how much accumulation has fallen, we see that there's a dusting across the streets. The roads, for the most part, are fine, which is definitely fortunate. However, it could get a little bit slick later during the night as the snow continues to fall and continues to cool down the road, and that will potentially create accumulation on the roads. Hopefully the snow plows and the trucks are salting the road so the snow will melt. But it seems like if this continues for the next several hours, we will see accumulation on the road, so watch out for that. If we take a look further north, Wyoming, the extreme southeastern portions of Wyoming are still gonna experience this, and then the higher elevations of Colorado, like Boulder and the Rocky Mountains, will experience the heavier amount of snow from this as a result of being located in the higher elevations. And also the temperatures are cooler in the higher elevations, which means that the ground is more likely to cool quicker in those regions. So watch out if you're in the higher elevations. And then moving up more towards the northeast, we see that Nebraska is involved. Valentine is currently under 24-degree weather conditions with snow. However, thanks to this ridge that's just going to be up north of it, I would expect in Valentine it should wind down for you within about 2 to 3 hours. Because if we take a look at the GFS model, this approximately, as I'll put it a little forward, is like maybe around right now. We see that high pressure is gonna move further south, and that will bring a more stable and dry air to where Nebraska, in the northern portions of the snow band, we'll see improvement in conditions as we head forward into the day. If we look at the future cast as of right now, of so this prob you see that snow will continue, the air will become more stable. We'll start to see a little bit more dry air filter in to this snow band in Nebraska. My bad. And we will see that dry air continue to filter in, and that snow band continue to wind down, and it will be very small. The snow will be lighter because this dry air from the north is going to come in and dry things up a little bit in Nebraska and Colorado, weakening that snow band. But if we take more looks at the radar, beyond the precipitation, we see quite a stark temperature contrast right around Kansas, where in one area it's 72 degrees, but if you go probably about 30 miles to the west, it drops down to 49. That's such a huge contrast, and that's creating a lot of the strong winds in this area, since the atmosphere wants to keep everything balanced, and including the air molecules, it wants to bring a lot of that cooler, denser air to the less dense air, which as a result of that is creating a hefty amount of wind in this area, which is why we see blizzard warnings in effect for the northeastern portions of Colorado and the western portions of Nebraska. And if we take a look at wind stream map, I like this because it gives a good idea of where this wind is coming from, and it gives you a clear, in-depth look of where exactly that wind is going. We see the cool air from this ridge that's coming down south is trying to filter into that low pressure system, and that low pressure system seems to be right around here. But I've been noticing over the past several loops there's been less rotation in this area, which could mean that this low pressure over here is weakening and it's transferring the energy more over towards the this area, which is expected by a lot of the models, because as this ridge builds up, the air is going to become more stable in this area, and the cool air is going to dominate more of that warm air, and that high pressure will dip down far enough to where it's going to force the this low pressure here to transfer its energy further up north, like the GFS model is stating. And what that means is that this snow band will weaken significantly, and more of the snow will transfer towards Canada, and more of that energy will transfer towards Canada, because you see in this loop the low pressure's here, but it begins to transfer its energy as the the air here becomes more stable because of this high pressure system. So expect improving conditions in this area. But in terms of how much snow is expected exactly, we see that in there's, for the most part, it's gonna be around 3 to 5 inches at most, maybe 5 to 8 in the higher elevations. But for the most part, we're seeing 1 to 3 to 3 to 5, and that's definitely good news. We don't want anything more major than 3 to 5 inches, but it's still going to be something to watch because it's going to fall down in a pretty quick time frame. So 3 to 5 inches, although it might be considered light to what you've experienced in the Midwest from previous snowstorms, it's going to fall down in a pretty rapid rate. So definitely watch out for that in those regions. And as a result of the strong instability, we're also seeing some severe thunderstorm bands because of the strong updraft that this cold air is inducing. So if you're just right around the Omaha area, Lincoln area, you could experience thunderstorms, and I wouldn't be surprised if that continues on into Iowa and maybe all the way up north to Wisconsin, because that warm air is going to continue to stay. However, since we're approaching nighttime, the air will become a little bit less unstable, but definitely in these areas, definitely watch out for some thunder showers and surprise thunderstorms, even if they're not severe, just because there's strong instability that could induce a lot of these thunderstorms in this area. But yeah, snow seems pretty light in this area. If we take a live look at Denver, we see that accumulation, for the good news is that accumulation seems fairly light on the roads, on the pavement. There doesn't seem to be much snow. However, in the grass, it might be a little larger, but the good news is that for the most part, the roads are okay in Denver, Colorado. According to this Earth Cam, that's near downtown, it looks like. So that's definitely good news. If we take a future look of this to see how this will impact Wisconsin and why the snowfall is so limited, I just deleted the tab. I'll search it up again. So I'm gonna pull up the Futurecast radar again, so you guys could see why the snowfall is going to be a little bit limited. And it's because there isn't really like a lot, despite the instability, there isn't really a lot of moisture for this to feed off of, since this low pressure is so far from the ocean where it could feed off of a lot of that water. But it may strengthen as it gets to Canada, but that's going to be well after it's pretty much away from the United States. And we might see severe storms tomorrow across the Northeast as a result of this instability. But you see that snow band weakens because of that ridge, and then most of that energy transfers further north to where most of the snowfall will be towards Canada. Um, and because there's just going to be an abundance of warm air that's just going to take over the eastern seaboard as a result of just a strong ridge that the GFS model is putting just off the coast of the Atlantic. So there won't be that much snow in the Wisconsin, Iowa area, and there just isn't um, a ton of water this storm could absorb to where it could strengthen rapidly or be a major threat to the U.S. And this stable air from the high pressure system is gonna just weaken a lot of this snow band over Nebraska currently. So that's why the snowfall is currently limited. And then as we move on to tomorrow on Friday, we will see the snow in Wisconsin. I think the GFS model is currently exaggerating a little bit how big the snow band is. It'll be a little bit. I think it'll be a little bit less than that as a futurecast states. It'll be about this, which I mostly expect 3 inches if you're unlucky in Wisconsin and Iowa. So, but still, keep in mind that 3 inches of snow could fall 1 to 3, so it will not be that bad. But make sure to salt those roads just in case if the worst case scenario is gonna happen, and just watch out for that if you're in Wisconsin. Now for the Northeast, we could see a chance of scattered thunderstorms, and there's a slight chance it will be severe. However, I don't think the instability will be as strong as it is in this area right now, where we're seeing 70-degree temperatures just 30 miles away from 40-degree temperatures. The instability will wind down a little bit because the high pressure will be a little bit further. Let me see. So because the jet stream will stable out a little bit, there won't be as much of a dip, and that dip in the jet stream will be too far to the west to really bring any severe thunderstorms in the Northeast. However, there's still that chance. You don't want to rule it out, as the storm prediction map shows that there's still a small marginal chance within this region for severe thunderstorms tomorrow. So watch out for that. But other than that, it's going to be very warm in the Northeast and across the eastern seaboard in general. So if you want to enjoy the warmer temperatures outside, you could tomorrow, which is definitely great. We're going to see 75-degree temperatures near New York, 70-degree temperatures in Boston, and just high 70s in Washington, D.C. potentially as a result of this. But after, we will see that cool down because of that ridge that I was talking about, and maybe a potential snowstorm going into Monday the 23rd, because what's going to induce it, because after this extratropical storm moves out, that it's going to be very stable across the US for the most part, but we may see a low pressure from Mexico come from the south and move up, and then it will encounter some of the cool air from the north, and that'll create a little bit of unstable air to where thunderstorms could develop, and as a result we might see a trough develop just to the south, bringing some rain to the southeast and potentially some snow in the northeast, which is a little bit rare for this time of the year, as we're almost going to approach April, but we're still not out of the threat of snow yet. Just keep that in mind. If you're in the Northeast, I don't expect major accumulations as of right now, because this still seems pretty weak and there isn't major instability to where it could really strengthen and rapidly intensify by the time it makes it to Virginia. But it's definitely something to watch over the next several days. It all depends on how The snowfall definitely depends on like how far south and how slow or fast this high pressure moves, because if it moves slower, there's a potential that this storm will not only be stronger, because if it, let's say if it moves a little slower where the high pressure is in this area, this this storm might, there might be cooler air in this area to where we might see more instability to where the storm could strengthen a little bit more. And if the high pressure were to move slower as well, the storm will move slower. And since the high pressure is moving slower, the cold air will move slower. So we might see a bigger snow threat from the northeast. However, it's still uncertain. As of right now, I would expect for Pennsylvania, you might see maybe 1-3 inches from this, and then moving a little bit forward from that in the higher elevations, especially, you might see maybe 3 to 5. But as for the I-95 corridor from Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York City, it's still uncertain, but I would say um, no accumulation is likely. Maybe some rain and snow mix, but it might just be a little too warm for snow in those regions as the forecast currently stands. There are still changes to predict. We still have to see how slow or fast that high pressure moves, because that's going to be key to determining whether there's going to be a bigger snowstorm or not, especially for the coastal northeast region. So we definitely have to keep that in mind over the next several days. But yeah, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good day, good night whenever you're watching this, and make sure to subscribe for more content. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good